Bringing you the news from around the globe and here at home. This is the News at 9. I am Joel Outscore.
And I'm Jitendra Gunnasena. A very good evening. Let's now take a look at the headlines.
Global financial integrity calls on central bank to investigate illegal monetary outflows from Sri Lanka.
IGP NK Ilangakun bids farewell to the Sri Lanka police.
තිස්සායකට පස්සේ විශේෂයෙන් සමුගන්නේ ඉතාමත් සැහැල්ලුවෙන් සහ සතුටින්.
Minister Chandima Virakodi lashes out at joint opposition.
ඒක අබද්ධ විපක්ෂයේ බැලුවා. ඒකෙන් මුල් පුටුවල ඉන්න UN පිකාරයෝ. ඉතින් අපිට ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ
Body of young woman whose throat was slit discovered in Bandrubag Gaol. And on to our developing story tonight. The US-based Global Financial Integrity Organization in a report revealed the illegal flow of 2.88 trillion rupees out of the country in a 10-year time frame ending 2013.
Newsfirst exclusively spoke to economist and co-author of the report titled Illicit Financial Flows from Developing Countries from 2004 to 2013, Joseph Spangers.
We characterize that as something illicit, given that is an illicit transfer of money and an illicit, effectively a lie to the government of your country. So it may not have been earned by illegal means, but it was certainly transferred by illegal means. Now, in the case of Sri Lanka, nearly $20 billion left the country illicitly over the 10 years from 2004 to 2013. Of that $20 billion, $17 billion left through trade misinvoicing, primarily through import over-invoicing or overstating the value or volume of a good that's been imported into Sri Lanka. I would certainly encourage perhaps the Financial Intelligence Unit or some part of the Treasury Ministry to look into some further investigations here. And again, we have worked with financial intelligence units in other countries on identifying major sources of this problem, and again on fixing policies that may make this type of behavior easier to do. We would be happy to work in confidence with the Sri Lankan government to develop and implement policies to reduce illicit financial flows from your country.
Newsfirst spoke to the former governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Ajit Niwad Cabral, who was the head of the CBSL for 7 of the 10 years investigated by Global Financial Integrity. He said that he cannot comment on the matter.
Trade misinvoicing occurs when international trade takes place. Both importers and exporters, they either under-invoice or over-invoice the actual transaction. For example, the importer wants to take the money out of Sri Lanka and park it somewhere else. What he would normally do is he will over-invoice the import. At the same time, the exporters will under-invoice because that is the amount of money that would come to Sri Lanka through legal channels. And finally, the excess amount that they have indicated in the invoice would be transferred in their name in some other country where there is tax haven and also there are numbered accounts. So this is happening in order to transfer monies out of Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka has laws, but unfortunately, because of the number involved are so high, the Sri Lankan authorities are unable to check each and every transaction. Therefore, they would do so only when there is suspicion about heavy over-invoicing and heavy under-invoicing, which is called the misinvoicing of the foreign aid trade transactions.
From the beginning, we knew that a lot of money had been spilled out of the country, and the speculations were there. It was $17 billion, and then it's $18 billion and $19 billion. Now this case is $19 billion. And that's the amount that we even calculated with all the projects, especially non-solicited proposals which came to Sri Lanka during that time period. Definitely the banks must be questioned at this juncture and ask them to provide us with all the details. And once we have the details, the first step is we must make sure that we must bring the perpetrators before the law, and we must find methods to get the money back. And then you can deal with the bank. If the bank has not informed, they are supposed to inform when certain amount of money goes out of the country. And then you can take action against the banks also.
Attention was also focused on the Panama Papers at several events held today. It says that there are some Sri Lankans involved in this. Everything can be found out, from who these people are to how much money has been stashed away. But what I am surprised about is, why is this government, which spoke so much about good governance, still silent on this? The entire world sees this. No one can hide for long because technology has improved. No one can prevent the wrongs that one has done from being exposed to the world. There is a dire need for us to amend our laws to suit international laws.
All this, surely, Hemant, are monies that are being held away from the authorities in Sri Lanka, and therefore public money.
We are puzzled. We think that we have been, not only the ordinary people, not only the people on the street, not only the people who shout Jayaveva, even the people like us have been misled. I mean, in Colombo, so many people voted for this government in order to eradicate corruption. In order to send some money to my son for his education, the number of forms, the number of documents I have to fill, and still ultimately the bank says, makes various queries and the money is not sent in time. But here, people stash millions and billions of dollars and no questions are being asked.
You're watching the News at 9. On to a story that made it to the headlines this evening. Inspector General of Police N.K. Ilangakun retired from his post today. Ilangakun served for 5 years as the 33rd IGP of Sri Lanka.
N.K. Ilangakun joined the police department in 1980 as a sub-inspector and was a founding member of the police special task force. He was actively involved in several wartime operations and held many ranks in the department, serving with distinction in many parts of the island. Since being appointed Inspector General of Police on the 29th of June 2011, Ilangakun embarked on a mission to bring about a police service that is closer to the people.
I joined the Sri Lanka Police on the 20th of January 1980 with much happiness. 36 years later, I am happy when leaving the Sri Lanka Police. I wish to make a final request of the officers to ensure that they are committed to their service and that they are committed to upholding the pride of the service. In my experience, if you fulfill the task entrusted to you on behalf of the people, you can minimize political intervention. If there was something that I could not do, I have always said no. I will not say that there aren't any. At some instances, accusations were leveled against me. There were some regrets at such instances. But I entrusted these things to time and I remained silent, knowing that the truth would be victorious someday. The next IGP is very fortunate because there is a positive environment in the ministry today. I can say so without fear.
Journalists also raised questions regarding the controversial death of a youth in Ambalipitia.
If I were to speak about this, then people will say that the ASP involved is my bodyguard or that he is my henchman, so I will not speak about it. When I was an ASP, he was yet to join the police. I have no need to cover up the truth at any time. Neither do I wish to save any officers who have done wrong. If they have done wrong, punish them through the courts. But if they are not guilty, we cannot simply allow people to harass them for no reason either.
Journalists also questioned the IGP regarding allegations that security forces were summoned to Temple Trees on the night of the presidential election last year as part of a coup attempt.
ඒක සම්බන්ධයෙන්
The CID conducted an investigation regarding this. The files have been sent to the Attorney General's department. The Attorney General will study this and decide if such a thing transpired and if a case is to be filed or not.
Questions were also raised regarding accusations against the police.
දැන් අපේ පොලිසිය කියන්නේ
84,000 people serve in the police. All 84,000 are not the same. Remember that our police was involved in the war for 30 years. Imagine how difficult it is for the person who lived with his finger on the trigger to change his mindset to meekly asking, "Sir, can you show me your driving license?" Even the person writes complaints to the police. Starts with halt. Time must be given for mindsets to change.
The outgoing IGP was accorded a special guard of honor at the police field force headquarters this afternoon. Meanwhile, the President has submitted 3 nominees for the position of IGP to the Constitutional Council. The nominees are S.M. Vikramasinghe, Pujit Jayasundara and C.T. Vikramaratne. The Constitutional Council will convene on the 18th of April, following which their recommendation will be submitted to the President.
On to more local news. The Tea Shakti Fund, which is affiliated to the Tea Small Holdings Development Authority, convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
Since 2010, the Tea Shakti Fund has gradually declined. By 2015, the Tea Shakti Fund was in a very difficult position. When I assumed duties, the Tea Shakti Fund account had only 75,000 rupees in it. The loss of 101 million in 2014 has been reduced to 76 million. Payments had not been made for leaves purchased from tea smallholders. On the other hand, we are 102 million in debt to brokers who sell the tea dust after we purchase the leaves. When we purchase leaves from the smallholders, manufacture tea dust and send it to the auction, they slash it from our debt. The money owed to the brokers has reduced to about 38 million rupees. We were in a situation where it was difficult to even pay the electricity bills for a factory. Members of the joint opposition expressed the following views at a media briefing held today.
Billion 40ක් මහ බැංකුව බැඳුම් කරගන්න
While the central bank had announced a bond issue of 40 billion, in the end, bids amounting to 80 billion were accepted in total. The interest rate is not a small change either. The annual interest rate for 14 years is 14.23%. They are not revealing the names of the buyers either. They scammed off central bank bonds once before. Interest rates increased as a result of paying for this. Then the country had to pay an additional hundreds of billions to pay for that. Now, for the second time and the third time, a central bank bond scam took place last week. This shows that these people have no concern whatsoever for the will of the people. The country's economy has collapsed today.
මේ රටේ අද ආර්ථිකය සම්පූර්ණයෙන් බිඳවට්ටලා තියෙන්නේ.
දැන් මේ දේශපාලනයේ විහිළුවක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
All of you can see how low politics in our country has fallen. We never listened. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe spoke as if he was having the time of his life. You can see how much he has changed after being appointed Prime Minister this time. The manner in which the Supreme Council of this country is acting today is very disappointing.
උත්තරීතර සභාව කියන තැන ඊටාම කනගාටුදායක ආකාරයකට තමයි හැසිරෙන්නේ.
Now on to a headline-making story. Minister Chandamivira Kodi spoke of the joint opposition at a meeting of Sri Lanka Freedom Party activists in Hapugalakor today.
If you take a look at the joint opposition, you will see the front row are all UMPers. Those days when we talk about Gamani Lokuge, who chases after and attacks all the Sri Lanka Freedom Party students' councils, all of the SLFP students' councils are shell-shocked. He is in the forefront of the joint opposition. GL Piris and Bandalagunavardhana, who were the ones who were in the forefront to overthrow the government in the year 2001, are the big wigs in the joint opposition. Basil Rajapaksa undermined and insulted us when we arrived from America is a big name in the joint opposition. It is not about where they came from or whether the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has done bad. Lakshman Kiriyala, who was with the SLFP from its inception, is now part of the UMP. Mangala Samaravida is also a part of the UMP. This is a very unique situation. What we would like to say is that we will remain with the SLFP forever, just as we have in the past. Manusha Nanak assumed duties as the Deputy Minister of Foreign Employment today. The Deputy Minister assumed duties amid blessings invoked by the Mahasangha this morning. Officials of the ministry as well as members of the Deputy Minister's family participated in the event. We did not venture into politics to resolve internal issues or to clash with those inside. We came to serve the people, remaining within the decisions taken by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party as the party moves forward as a national government. We hope to fulfill this task while remaining in the SLFP and respecting the leader of the SLFP, whoever that may be.
Geneva.
During the time when issues of the Geneva Human Rights Council cropped up, the people of the country did not have knowledge about the issue. Therefore, the campaign called Brainwash was organized to change the mindset of the people. All my votes came under the SLFP ticket. We worked with him closely as he was a contestant for the post of Prime Minister. Be it the local government polls or any other polls, we will remain in the party.
Still ahead on the international news desk.
New revelations on the spread of Zika virus. Scientists uncover new brain disorder associated with the virus affecting adults. And still in local news this evening, the first Uda Gammania constructed under the new government was declared open in Valioya today under the auspices of the Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajith Premadasa. This is the first Uda Gammania to be declared open in 22 years since the passing of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa, who conceptualized the project. The village, which has been named the Sampathnuwara Isurupura Model Village, comprises of 25 homes and has been provided with facilities including roads, water and electricity. Having declared open the village, Minister Sajith Premadasa presented his sunness to the people for the public amenities at the village, including the community hall. Our opponents say that no development has occurred since the good governance regime came into power. They say that they cannot see any development. I wish to tell these opponents to come and look at the work being done by the Ministry of Housing and Construction without going everywhere else and spreading lies. I wish to clearly state to the political hypocrites in the opposition that by 2025 our government promises and is committed to ensure that everyone has shelter in the name of the late Ranasinghe Premadasa. Parallel to the event held today, concessionary home loans were provided to 30 selected public officials from the Valioya Administrative Division and 50 families from the Sampathnuwara War Heroes village. The minister also presented title deeds for 50 homes in the proposed Sangabopura and Bandulapura Uda Gammana villages and provided financial facilities under the Samdasebna program for 200 families in the Mullaitivu district.
The body of an 18-year-old whose throat was slit was discovered in the Vandaraba area in Gaul today. The body was found by the police after being informed by the victim's mother.
The victim was identified as Dilini Subhashini, a resident of the Vandaraba Pitihara area. Police believe that the victim was murdered between 8:30 last night and 6:30 this morning. The body of Dilini was discovered in a tea estate by her mother. The victim had left her home saying that she was visiting a relative's house. A 23-year-old youth living in the same area is suspected to have carried out the murder. The suspect and the victim had developed an affair over the years, and the murdered youth, at the age of 12, is said to have lived separately with the suspect for nearly a year. Following a complaint made by the victim's mother that her daughter was sexually abused at this occasion, the police had taken the suspect into custody and presented him in court. A hearing of the case was taken up once again on the 16th of May. As the victim was ordered to be sent into probation during previous hearings, the mother's discontent prevented that from happening. Relatives of the victim said that she had received death threats as she had refused to marry him. The suspect had also attempted to kill Dilini in the presence of her mother. Police suspect the murder took place after the two had met at the tea estate last night. Dilini, whose father is also dead, has an elder brother and a sister.
දැනට මාස 3කට කලිනුත් මෙයාගේ බෙල්ල
He attempted to murder her around 3 months ago as well. The police then came and solved the issue.
මෙති හන්දා
During investigations carried out at the crime scene, with the help of police canine artists, later in the afternoon, the police dog followed the scent to the residence of the suspected youth. The suspect had reportedly fled the area by the time. An individual was killed after he was shot in the Megaspiti area in Urgas Manhandia. Police said that the shooting was carried out by 2 armed motorcyclists before fleeing the incident. The victim was a 45-year-old father of 2.
Up next is Action TV.
Minister Dr. Jayampati Vikramaratne visited the village of Panima, which comes under the purview of the Laugala Divisional Secretariat, to find out the obstacles faced by the local farmers to enter their farmlands. On the 30th of last month, the Chief Magistrate of Pothuil had issued an order to the police to allow the farmers to peacefully engage in farming on the 166-acre plot of land. In this backdrop, the farmers were being obstructed by the Air Force, which is occupying the farmland. However, following discussions with the minister, the Air Force refrained from impeding the activities of the farmers. The farmers who engaged in farming on these plots of land following the end of the war were driven away by an orchestrated group. However, the reason for the Air Force to occupy this land remains a mystery. The rights of the farmers who have been engaging in traditional farming for years were consolidated through the order issued by the Pothuil magistrate. According to a decision reached by the cabinet last year, 142 acres of land out of the 166 acres should be distributed among the farmers who claimed ownership over the plots of land. The 25 acres of land was allocated to build an international relations institute. Not only was the 25 acres, but the total of 166 acres of the farmland was expropriated by the Presidential Secretariat during the previous administration, breaching the laws. When Minister Dr. Jayampati Vikramaratne spoke to the farmers who were affected by the decision, it was revealed that the Ragamavala farmland was slated to be utilized for the tourism industry of the country, not complying with the decisions reached by the cabinet.
As we all know, the country has a lot of under-the-table deals. We are against this type of dealing. Unfortunately, in the country, people from the business, political and other sectors who are highly influential intervene and make use of the opportunity for their gain when innocent people fall into trouble. We need to work against that.
And well, that's a wrap with Primetime News for tonight. I'm Jitendra Gunasena.
And I'm Joel Outskun. Thank you very much for stopping by. For the News1st team, we wish you that you have a classic and wonderful day ahead.